Hey guys, my name is Ryan, and welcome to Overwatch Central. You know how these videos go, we test all of the new abilities on Baptiste against different interactions with other heroes, especially surrounding his Immortality Field, but also his ultimate Amplification Matrix. To catch people up to what this hero is in a very quick fashion, Baptiste has two shots, one that does damage, it does 25 damage per bullet, and it shoots 3 bullets in one round. This weapon doesn't heal at all, you have 45 bullets in your ammo clip, and then you have your secondary fire, which shoots a grenade which actually heals your teammate for about 60 HP. You have 10 nades in a magazine, but you can't heal yourself with this ability. You then have Regeneration Burst, which is your first ability. It has a 15-second cooldown. It heals you for a total of 150 HP for around 5 seconds. It does have a radius, but you can move away from people and it still will be healing them. They just need to be in that radius when you start. You then have the Immortality Field, which is a very strong ability. It deploys a destroyable object that will not let you go below 20% of your overall health. If the target is below 20% HP, then they will be healed up to that. The drone has 250 HP, players can be knocked out of it with like a whole hog as you've seen on screen, and it lasts around 6 to 8 seconds. He also has a passive which is Exo Boots, where basically you hold crouch to charge up a jump, and you can go quite high with it. Really good ability actually for getting around, but the ultimate is the Amplification Matrix, the thing that we're mostly going to be focusing on in this video. It projects a barrier that looks like a shield, which when stuff passes through it, it doubles all the damage that that projectile or ability does, but also doubles the healing if it's a healing ability. Mostly this video we're going to test out what works and what doesn't, and it lasts around 8 seconds. So now you have a gist of what the hero does, let's go over every single one of the heroes. There's a chance that we may miss some interactions that are quite vague, so if we did miss any, do let us know in the comments below. And if you do enjoy this video, do like it. We spent a couple of hours making all this, so I do hope that you appreciate all of the info. We'll go across the categories and we'll start with D.Va. D.Va's defense matrix can eat both of your damage shots with your primary fire, but also your healing shots with your secondary. But it doesn't eat the Immortality Field. You can still throw this behind a D.Va and it won't be eaten. Interestingly enough, you could throw down the Immortality Field to save you from a D.Va bomb, even at point blank. The Immortality Field will get destroyed because it only has 250 health, but the last thing it will do is save people in that area. But does D.Va's bomb benefit from the Amplification Matrix? Well, if you have a stationary bomb, it doesn't do any extra damage, and that is the same for a moving bomb when it moves through there too. There is a theme, we'll sort of cover it as we go on in the video. We move on to Orisa. Her normal abilities, of course, do increase in damage when using the Amplification Matrix. She can halt people out of the Immortality Field, quite generic, but Supercharger does stack when used alongside an Amplification Matrix. But it also stacks with Nano Boost, Supercharger, and Mercy's damage boost all at the same time per shot, and remember that Baptiste fires in a 3-shot burst. Each shot does 25 damage base. When using the Amplification Matrix, that is doubled to 50 per shot. Using the Matrix and Super, that is increased to 62.5 damage per shot. Matrix Supercharger and Damage Boost increases your damage to 70 per shot. Matrix Supercharger, Damage Boost and Nano increases your damage to 82.5 per shot. As I said, 3-round burst. You could kill any 200 HP hero with that. Almost killing 250 HP heroes. Not that that's ever going to happen in a game, but pretty crazy how these all stack. Moving on, we go on to Reinhardt. Reinhardt's Fire Strike, when passing through the Amplification Matrix, does work, but him charging the target through the Amp Matrix, swinging through the Amp Matrix, and ulting do not. The Immortal Field can be thrown through an enemy shield, so you don't need to worry about it hitting a barrier and stopping where it is. So that's actually in itself quite strong. For Wrecking Ball, Hammond, his guns are as normal. His swing and pile driver, I assume, is normal too. We forgot to test it, but going over other trends with heroes, that seems to be the case. And mines also don't have their damage increased if they pass through an Amplification Matrix. Winston, there's nothing really to show. We've kind of gone over everything that would affect him. The Immortal Field does go through barriers, so this is actually quite a big nerf to Winston. Means that Baptiste is really good at peeling too as well. Zaria, her beam is not affected at all with the Amplification Matrix damage buff, but her projectiles with her secondary fire are. We forgot to test it, but I assume that the ticking damage from Graviton Surge would also increase. More citation needed on that one. For Ashe, her dynamite impact and ticking damage is both increased when thrown through the Amplification Matrix. Even Bob has his damage increased when firing through this too, but when he runs through the Matrix and charges a target, the damage stays the same there. Of course her weapons are as normal too. Doomfist's Rocket Punch isn't affected by Baptiste's ultimate at all. Same with the majority of his kit unless he's firing his primary fire. When the character moves and does damage, it doesn't count as a projectile, therefore it doesn't have its damage increased, meaning that Doomfist doesn't really benefit from this at all. Genji has a few interesting interactions because of course he can deflect stuff. He cannot deflect your Immortality Field, he can deflect your shots to do damage back to you, but he can also deflect your heals, but aiming those heals at his team does absolutely nothing. This might be an oversight, of course Genji can heal his team when deflecting an Ana grenade, so it should be the case here too, right? Genji slashing through an Amplification Matrix also doesn't increase his damage. Hanzo, everything works as it should do, his arrows do more damage when firing through, but his ultimate doesn't have a damage increase other than the arrow itself that gets fired out for Dragon Strike. So it's an increased damage of like 10. Because the ammo itself doesn't do a lot of damage. For Junkrat, his Riptide just doesn't work, his trap doesn't work with this, but his mines do increase with damage with the Amplification Matrix. McCree, again easy to assume that his weapon would do more damage when using Baptiste's ultimate, but what about High Noon? Well, High Noon locks on at the same rate as it would do normally, but when it passes through the Matrix, it of course doubles in damage. So the High Noon lock isn't factored in at all, so even when you have the reticle saying that you can't kill somebody with it, there's a strong chance that you can. And considering that McCree had a buff to how quickly High Noon ramps up in damage, this synergy might actually be really strong. Mei's freeze is exactly the same damage wise, it doesn't freeze faster or anything like that. Mei's right click of course does more damage, but when Mei's ult was thrown through, it increased the damage from 100 to 200 ticking rate, so quite an interesting interaction there. It doesn't mean a lot, but Mei's Blizzard does do more damage when passing through Baptiste's ultimate, albeit not a lot. Pharah's damage is normally affected, Barrage also doubles in damage, but I did want to highlight, imagine comboing Immortality Field with an ult in Pharah. So she won't get killed if people are trying to focus her down unless they kill the field beforehand, but in that time she might just be able to team wipe. So that's actually a really strong synergy there too. Reaper's Death Blossom does more damage, he also gets back more lifesteal from shooting targets when he shoots through the Amp Matrix. Much like Farah, imagine throwing an Immortality Field on a Death Blossom to keep him alive, could be really strong. Soldier got a buff on the PTR currently too, he can now attack Visor Riptides that are incoming, and also Immortality Fields if they're in range. His damage also increases through Baptiste's ultimate, which is no surprise really. Sombra again has some really cool stuff here that makes her really strong. She can hack and EMP your Immortality Field to render it useless. Hack nor EMP has any effect on your shift ability if it's currently in use, it won't just stop that passive that's going on. You can also just left click and right click as normal, as well as super jumping as normal, but you just can't obviously use your abilities. But an interesting one is that when a Sombra EMPs, it will completely destroy your ultimate if it's up. However, she cannot hack it, so be very careful if you want to use this ultimate that Sombra is not just going to EMP it. I actually think that Sombra is going to be incredibly meta because of changes like this. Symmetra's Beam, her primary fire isn't affected, her turrets are not affected either. We forgot to test her right click, but I would assume that that would work, considering again it's a projectile passing through. Torbjorn's Molten Splooge does the same damage, his weapons of course do more, and his turrets also do more damage too when firing through the Amp Matrix. I also forgot to mention that Torbjorn's turret and Bob both lock onto an Immortality Field if they can reach it, so do be careful with where you place it. Widowmaker's damage is normal, but the mine damage isn't increased when it passes through Baptiste's ultimate. Tracer, guns normal, I'm not sure if we failed to test anything with her rewind ability, but her bomb when passing through Amp Matrix does double in damage. As we go into the supports, we're going to focus on the damage side of them before we go into healing. Anna's damage of shots increases, her grenade damage also increases, and even the damage of a sleep dart increases from 5 to 10 when going through Amp Matrix, which I find is really funny. For Brigitta, her flail does the same amount of damage, her damage per hit is the same, no changes there for Brigitta. Same for Lucio, there's no increase in damage from the boop, of course his shots do increase in power though. Moira's Coalescence actually doesn't do any more damage or healing, her life drain is the same, however her orbs tick faster. The orbs don't technically do more damage, because the orbs cap out at 300 damage in total, but when the damage is increased, it drains a lot faster, meaning that the DPS of course goes up. But the orb has to physically go through the Amp Matrix, it can't be like the tendrils that attach to people that do it, it doesn't work in that case. But Zenyatta's Discord also does nothing when going through the Amplification Matrix. For healing, Anna's shots do more healing, the grenade does more healing, Nana Boost however doesn't do any more healing than normal. Brigitta's armor packs don't heal double, her passive also doesn't heal double either. Lucio's amp doesn't heal double, Mercy's beam doesn't heal double, Moira's normal heal doesn't heal anymore, Coalescence is the same, but of course much like the damage orbs, the health orbs are used up a lot quicker, and finally Zenyatta's Harmony Orb isn't increased in any fashion. And that's all of the heroes and abilities and all of the interactions that we could have thought up, but no doubt we may have missed some, so if we did, do let us know in the comments below and we'll be sure to maybe add it in another video. But the TLDR on how these abilities work, any form of beam isn't affected by the Amplification Matrix. Heroes acting as projectiles, such as a Reinhardt charging, a Wrecking Ball swinging, being on fire and hitting the target there, and a Doomfist Rocket Punch are not affected by this either. It's any form of bullets, no matter if it's from a turret, Bob, yourself, that all seems to work just fine. But I did hope you enjoyed this video. Took a while to sort of edit together, but it's worth it. I'm very excited to see what Baptiste does to the game. I'm certainly going to be playing a lot of him, or will try to. But again, if you enjoyed this video, do like it. Take care, and I'll see you next time.